let's go ahead and get started. I am Lauren Stein, and I'm the implementation manager here over at ACCTivate, and today we're going to be going over the pricing options in ACCTivate. ACCTivate gives you the flexibility to set up pricing in many different ways. For customers, we have a contract, product-specific, default price codes, and invoice discounts. All of these can be set up differently for each customer based on their specific needs. If your business relies more on product-specific pricing, we also have product-specific, price category, and list price available. We also have other customers who utilize dimension-based pricing. This is going to be your weight, length, and variable pricing structures. In the past, I've had customers use a mix of all three. They'll have, let's say, contracts for certain customers, product-specific pricing for others, as well as catch weights for some of their items. Out of these options, price codes and the unit of measure specifications are set up in Configuration Manager, while the rest are done either via imports, manually on the customer or product, or set up in price code maintenance. So let's talk about customer pricing. On the Prices tab of each customer, you'll see two tabs on the left-hand side. One is going to be for contracts, and the other is going to be for pricing. When the Pricing tab is selected, the user has the ability to add a default price code as well as a default invoice discount percent. The default price code links to the pricing setup on either the product windows individually or in price code maintenance. The default invoice discount percent tells ACCTivate to add this as a discount on the header of the sales order, which will discount the entire amount rather than line by line. We do have an option in Configuration Manager to exempt shipping items from the invoice discount percent in case those shouldn't be included. On the same tab, users can add customer-specific pricing or list the pricing linked to a customer contract. The customer-specific pricing is the highest part of the hierarchy for pricing in ACCTivate. On the Contracts tab, you can set up a contract for things like service or warranties. You also have the ability to select begin and end dates, a customer PO number, default ship to location for said contract, default terms information, discounts, and even a note for what this contract is for. The contract is set up prior to adding it to the list of prices on the Prices tab. Once set up, users can select the contract ID on the Prices tab and then specify what products or services are included in this contract. On the product window, users have the option to configure product-specific pricing on the Prices tab of the item. This tab lets the user assign a list price with a specific unit of measure and a price type, as well as price codes, a specific price or percent off of a specified attribute, low and high quantities, and effective and expiration dates. If you're using multi-currency, you also have the ability to set prices for each active currency with all the previously stated attributes assigned. Some customers have the need to set up price categories based on groups of products. One of my customers receives a vendor price list every month or so, which includes discount codes for groups of products. They use these discount codes as their price category, which gives them the ability to set prices on a group of products rather than setting it up one by one on each item. This list is actually maintained in price code maintenance rather than on the product prices tab itself, and again, that's for price categories. So to get a good picture on the hierarchy of pricing in ACCTivate, I've set up the price selection steps the program checks before setting the price on the order. The most important is customer contract and customer-specific pricing. If there is a contract, ACCTivate will apply the price before the customer-specific price that's not assigned to the contract. This comes in handy when let's say the contract expires and you want them to get a different specific price after that contract period has ended. If there is no contract, the program looks for customer-specific prices, which is step 2. Without any specific price specified, we take a look at the customer default price code, which will link to the product specific or the product price category pricing. If there is a product specific price, ACCTivate will apply this specific price linked to the default discount specified on the customer record. This holds true even if the product category has a price code listed. This gives you some flexibility when using things like price categories. You may want to still have a handful of product-specific prices that would be listed on products that are also included in these price categories. Some of your product-specific prices that will be on products that are included in the categories, and some of your customers may not be eligible for these special grouped pricing. After product specific, we check the product price category linked to the discount code on the customer. If no discount specified for any of these aspects, we will actually go to the product list price. The price codes listed on the sales orders will vary depending on which method you're using. If you aren't using price codes and solely rely on list price, the price code on the sales order will show up as an asterisk. Any customer-specific pricing will show up as an exclamation point. This goes for both contract and just the customer-specific pricing by itself. When utilizing something like web store pricing, where you would actually override the pricing setup and activate, the sales order will show a dash as the code. These would also be manually priced items that you're overriding the price on the sales order itself. If you're going to utilize custom price codes or levels, you'll need to set those up in Configuration Manager prior to assigning them to a customer or product-specific price. These can be 3 characters or less. We recommend using A to Z for ease of use, but some customers use all 3. You can give it a code and description in Configuration Manager. This means you have a price code of D with a description of dealer. You'll be able to see both the code and description when choosing it on the pricing windows. When setting up your pricing, we have multiple attributes available. The price type is the basis for price calculation. It tells ACCTivate whether you're taking a discount as a % of some cost, list price, or an actual specific amount. As stated previously, the code itself is what's set up in Configuration Manager prior to adding it to a customer or product. This tells the program what price level or category to use on the sales order. The price itself can either be an amount or % of a specified value. Keep in mind the % is going to be a whole number rather than a decimal, so this means that 50% would be 50 rather than 0.50, with the % being off a cost or the list price. When using multi-currency, you'll need to set up pricing for each currency you'll be using on a sales order, and this is done using that currency field on the Prices tab. The unit of measure comes in handy when you have multiple ways to sell an item. So let's say that you sell in cases, but you sometimes will break a case. If your pricing is set up based on list and list is set as case, you can also set a price to be based on something like pound or something like that. This also comes in handy when you're doing like catch weights. This happens when you stock or sell in something like case or box, but you price based on the actual weight of the item rather than a generic case or box price. If you run promotions, you have the ability to set up effective and expiration dates. On top of dates, you'll also be able to add low or high quantity on the pricing for quantity breaks. Keep in mind you'll need to set it up as follows. The first quantity break would be something like 1 to 10, the second would be 11 to 20, etc. To make sure you cover all price break quantities when doing this, let's say if you stop at the 20, you would add another price break for 21 and then not add a high quantity. So that way ACCTivate will see it as a price break for anything over 21. So if you stop at 11 to 20 and you don't add another price break for something when a customer orders over 21, then it'll actually revert back to the list price or to the price category price, depending on what you have set up. And of course, we're going to go over this during the demo. Okay, in the previous slide, I mentioned price types. Here's a chart showing you all the options available for inventoried items. The fixed price will be exactly what it sounds like, a set price for the item. You can use this as the list price or set this for your specific or group pricing as well, and it will show up on the screen as a type of P. The list price can be used to set up discounts. You'll see L% and $, which is list minus a specified % or plus a specified amount. Again, the % is a whole number rather than a decimal. We also have what's called management cost. You have similar options here. management cost plus a percent or amount based on which type you choose. Keep in mind when using management cost, you'll need to specify a management cost for each warehouse on the product record. I can't stress this enough. If you use multiple warehouses and don't set this per warehouse when using management cost as your price base, you'll have some warehouses pull without any pricing at all. So make sure to have a management cost specified on all available warehouses. Also, we have the ability to import a management cost, or you can add it individually to each item on the product window. The same goes for last cost. The last cost is updated each time you receive a product into a warehouse. This does not update when you add a landed cost to said receipts. This means the last cost is overridden each time you post a receipt, so it would make sense to use this if, let's say, your costs increase over time and you want to calculate your pricing based on that higher cost. Users can also import this or override it manually, but a new receipt will override it again. The types are the same for management cost. It'll be last cost plus a percent or an amount. Lastly, we have the option to price based on your average cost. The average cost will be available for all inventoried items regardless of the cost method you're using for your actual items. It is the average of the on-hand quantity and total value of the transactions. If you're using actual cost or FIFO or LIFO, don't worry if you see this on your items. It's just a reference and can be used for pricing. It doesn't actually get used for the cost that's sent to QuickBooks via the journal entries unless you have specified your cost method as average. And the same options apply here. It's going to be average cost plus a percent or an amount. For non-inventoried items, you'll only have the option of a fixed price list and management pricing options. This is due to you not actually receiving those items, so there's not going to be a last or average cost. Alright, so let's take a look at how this actually works in ACCTivate, because I know it can be kind of confusing just looking at slides. Okay, so before we get started on the customer and product pricing, let's take a look at what needs to be configured beforehand. So let's go to File, Configuration Manager. And the actual price codes are set up in sales order price codes. The price codes will need to be set up prior to assigning them to customers or each product. You can see here we have a code, description, and active status checkbox. The codes can be up to 3 characters long, and the description will be the long name of said code. So right now we've got dealer, distributor, special trade, high volume, and wholesale. If you want to add a new price code, you just hit edit and then give it a code. You can tab over, give it a name, and then go ahead and check it as active. And then once you set this up in Configuration Manager, you'll be able to assign this to either the product or the customer record. Let's go ahead and hit undo because we don't need that temporary code. And let's also take a look at the unit of measure. Unit of measure comes into play when you stock in a different unit than what you sell in, or if you're using catch weights or other variable pricing. I've already set up some examples for weight and length-based pricing, so you can see that here in pounds. We've got a weight-based price for box, case, and dozen. And then we'll also need to set this up on the other side of the relationship, so we'll need to set it up for case, box, and dozen the opposite way. So to do that, since we've got this 10 pounds in a dozen, when you go over to dozen, you would hit edit, add a weight-based relationship. Since it's 10 pounds to a dozen, 1 dozen would equal 0.1 pounds. So you would add 0.1 to pounds. And to get that 0.1, you just do 1 divided by whatever the quantity was on the pound relationship. So since it was 10, it's 1 divided by 10, which is 0.1. And the same setup has been done for box and case. So we've got case. Since the pound for case was 15, the case is going to be kind of an odd decimal. It's 0.06667 in a pound. And then if we were to add it for box, it would be 0.05. But we're not going to use box in any of the examples that we're using. And then we've also got a length-based price set up here, so square foot to reams. So I've said 10 square foot per ream as a length. And then in length, I've also set up the opposite direction. There's 0.1 reams in a square foot. And I do it in both directions, so on the product window, we can stock in ream, and then on the price tab, we can actually select square foot and then specify how many per ream per product. All right, so now that we've got price codes and unit of measure set up, let's go through the different pricing structures in ACCTivate, starting with the customer pricing. So let's go to Atoms, and then we'll go to the Prices tab. Right now, Atoms doesn't have any special pricing set up, so we're going to set that up now. Let's go ahead and start by giving Atoms a contract. Let's say we're doing a promotion, and they signed up with us for this promotion, so we want to give them our promotional contract. So you give it a contract ID, and then a description that'll be shown on the sales order window itself. You can specify a ship to location that you want to default whenever you've selected this contract on the sales order. You can give it a different terms code. Let's say for the promotional pricing, we're going to do net 60. This customer actually has a net 30 as a default, so you can see that here. Let's go back to the Prices tab. We'll set it to net 60. And the beginning and end dates, let's say we're just doing a promotion for this month. So we'll do 11/1/2014 to 11/30/2014. We can also give it a specific customer PO number and a different invoice discount than what you would normally see. So we'll do 15 here. You can also give it a note to specify, what's the reason for this contract, and also invoice text if you want specific text to print on the invoice whenever you release it. So let's go ahead and give them a default of 10 because on the contract we gave it 15, and a default price code of D, and that'll come into play a little bit later. Alright, so after we've set up this customer contract, then we can go to the Prices tab and we can select it here. So as you can see, you'll see a list of the available contracts for this customer. You select that contract and then you give it a specific price or whatever you've agreed upon with that customer. So we're going to select product A121 and we're going to give it a price of $350, which is going to be their price through the end of November. As you can see, the code changed to the exclamation point, and then we're just going to give it a P price. Now, let's say at the end of November, the price is going to revert back to either the list price or the price linked to the default price code. So since they're a dealer, we're going to go ahead and give them another price for A121. Now, this is going to come into effect whenever the expiration date actually goes through for the customer contract. So let's say we didn't want them to ever revert back to list, so we're going to set another customer-specific price on this customer. Alright, so let's see how this works on the actual sales order. Move this over a little bit so we can see it all. Alright, and we get this prompt, contracts exist for Atoms. Did you want to select that now? Hit yes. If you select promotion, as you can see, the terms changed from net 30 to net 60, and we now have a default PO on this sales order. So since the date is 11/25, when we add A121, it's going to give it the customer specific price of $350, and you can see that here. Let's try to move this over a little bit. So this promotional price is $350. Now let's say we are creating this order, but we don't actually want it to go into effect until 12/1. So if we change the date to 12/1 and we reset the prices, the price actually goes out of the promotional contract and it changes to the $375, which also is specified on the customer record. And that's based on the contract date ending on 11/30/2014. And until this customer specific price is removed or updated, the price for A121 will be $375 after this promotional period ends. And you can set up a multitude of customer contracts or customer specific prices on each of the customers. All right, so that's pretty much the basics of the customer specific pricing and the contract pricing. So let's go ahead and take a look at the actual product pricing, because that's where we get into all these different options. So we're going to go back to A121. I've already set up a few prices. We've got a European price, which is what I was talking about, the currency. So if I have a European customer that has this price code of D, it's going to use this price of $5. We've also got list price of $3.95. That price is going to show up for any customer that doesn't have the price code of D specified on the customer record. And then I've also set up some quantity breaks. So if they purchase less than 10, they're going to get list price of $3.95 unless they have a customer specific price on the customer record. If they purchase 10 to 15, they're going to pay $3.75. If they purchase 16 to 20, they're going to pay $3.50, and if they purchase more than 21, their price is going to be $3.45. And also I want to take note that we have the stocking unit and sales unit set to each, but since we have some standard relationships set up in Configuration Manager between the units of measure, we can also set up alternates for case and box, and you can see we have 12 each is in a case, and it says 1 each in a box. Obviously it would be like 20 or something like that. And then that means that we can actually add a case or box price to this item. Now we do have a customer asking about product specific promo instead of it being for a customer. It works the same way as on the customer record. So let's say if we set up special pricing for USD at, we'll say $2.75. Give them a really good price. So we would set effective dates of 11/1/2014 to 11/30/2014. And when we hit save, let's make a customer have a special price so you can see how this works. So if I create a sales order for Baker Ruby and it's in that period, they get $2.75, which is that promotional product price right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a sales order so you can see what it looks like to have an order that utilizes these quantity breaks. So let's see which customer. It was Apex. All right, so we'll create a sales order for Apex. And we'll add a 121. So they don't have any customer specific prices that you can see here. They just have a default price code. So since they have a default price code, it's going to look at the product window for all of its pricing. So we'll see if we can get this in a way you can see it all together. Okay, so you can see the low quantity. The high quantity is going to be one number below the low quantity for the next step. So at 1, it's $3.95, which is list. If we change it to 10, it goes to $3.75, which is the price break for 10 to 15. If we change it to 16, it goes down to $3.50. If we change it to, let's say, 25, it uses that $3.45 price break for the quantities. So as you can see, those quantity breaks are pretty handy, and ACCTivate will calculate it automatically. And again, if you want them to continually have this price break over 21, let's say we're not going to sell it for lower than $3.45 for dealers, you just leave the high quantity blank, and anything above 21 will be calculated at that high quantity break price. All right, and then to show you how the orders work for multi-currency, let's go ahead and create a new order for a European customer. So we go to the detail, add a 121, and as you can see, it defaults to $5 because this customer's currency is euro, and we have a euro price of $5. So make sure that if you're using multi-currency, that you set up that other currency on all the products that you're going to be selling to those other currency customers, because without it, Activate's not going to know what price to give it, because obviously the USD price is going to be different than the European price, because there's typically higher costs involved in shipping those items. Okay, so let's take a look at the other pricing setups that we have available. I set up that promotional effective and expiration date for this item. So let's take a look at what are the other options. So let's do the distributor pricing, and we're just going to keep everything in USD. And we'll set it to be one of the different price types. So we're going to do last cost plus 1%, and we're going to make it 10%. And so you select in this price type drop down, we have price, list price minus percent, list price plus amount. We have the management cost plus percent and amount, last cost plus percent and amount, and also average cost plus percent and amount. So we're going to use the last cost plus percent for this purpose right now. So we'll go ahead and select that. We're not going to give it a low, high quantity, or effective and expiration dates for this one. So we'll go ahead and hit save. So we've got this distributor price that's 10% on top of your last cost. And if we take a look at the warehouse D's last cost is $1.50, so is warehouse F, and then we also have a receiving bay D, which is $1. So let's create a new order for another customer, and we'll show you how this pricing looks. So we'll do Ajax, because that customer has a R price code. We'll add A121. It's going to pull it in as default of F because that's how the branch is set up. And you can see right here the price code is R, and then we have a price of $1.65. And $1.65 again is going to be 10% on top of this $1.50. And let's say for some reason we wanted to ship it out of our receiving bay. We can actually change that to the receiving bay. You tab out of it and the price updates to $1.10 because that's 10% on top of $1. Okay, so let's go back to F. And let's say for some reason that you didn't want to give them their distributor pricing, you wanted to give them a different price altogether. Now in this price code, if you click in here, you'll see a browse button. And then you can actually, when you click that browse button, it shows you all of the different pricing that you have set up for that specific product. So we have the special pricing at $2.75 between these two dates. We also have the dealer pricing with all the price quantity breaks. And then we have the distributor pricing, which is what we have on the sales order already. You can toggle this include expired and future prices at the bottom right here, and that will actually show you any expired or future promotional prices that you've already got set up in Activate. Let's say if you wanted to give them a deal that has expired, you can uncheck that, and then you can select those other prices. And then we also have the list price shows at the bottom, and you have a button to use list. So if we use list, the price reverts to $3.95. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of options, not only just to set up on the product itself, but on the sales order window you have the option to change it manually depending on, if you have a special deal going on that you want that customer to get that wouldn't usually get it. Alright, so let's take a look at product groupings for pricing. So we'll come back to A121, and on this prices tab you see a price category. So we're going to assign it to supplies. And once we assign it to supplies, we go to inventory, price code maintenance, and from here you'll actually select a specific price code. And on this categories tab, you go to the new line with the asterisk on the left. You select the category that you're assigning it to. And let's say we want to do 10% off list. So we're going to do list minus percent as the type. We're going to keep the currency as USD. And we're going to set the percent to be 10. So what this does is any product that has this price category of supply that doesn't have a product or customer specific price will get 10% off of list. if they have a price code of D on the customer record. So if you move off that line, it actually saves it. You don't have to click save or edit or anything on this window. So let's create a new sales order for Apex. Now, if we view this customer, they have a default price code of D, but they don't have a contract or customer specific price set up. And we add a 121. And now a 121 is going to be priced at $356 based on the price category discount of 10% off list. Now, the reason that it's using this discount and we have some product specific is because the quantity right now is 1. And so it's not going to be included in any of these price quantity or the low or high quantity price breaks. So if we change this to 10, it's actually going to update to be that $375 because, like I said earlier in the presentation, if you have a product specific price, it will use the product specific price before it uses the price category. So again, I changed it back to 1. The price reverted back to $356 because we've only ordered 1. Okay, and let's go back to price code maintenance. Now we've got this categories tab, so let's take a look at this products tab. Now what you see here is a list of all the products that have a price code of D assigned to them with all the product specific pricing listed here. Not only is it the pricing, but you can also see effective expiration dates as well as low and high quantities. So this will be a good way if you wanted to just go ahead and type out all of your pricing manually. You can go to price code maintenance, select the price code, and go ahead and add all the prices that would go to that specific price code. We do have the option to import this information, but we do have some customers that prefer to enter it manually just so they can just see it all together. Okay, so that's the basics of the price codes for the prices tab. Now let's take a look at what it's like to do catch weights or weight or length based pricing. So I've set up a few items. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the square foot per ream. Okay, so we've got this item that we stock and sell in reams, but we actually want to price it by the square foot. So since I set up that relationship both ways in Configuration Manager, on the Prices tab, we can actually select square foot instead of ream for the unit of measure for the list price. So I've set it to be $5 per square foot as a specific price instead of a percent or anything like that. And then also on the Specs tab, I've specified a length of 24, and I've checked that as variable. That variable checkbox is extremely important because that gives you the ability to change it on the sales order itself, so you can actually price based on the square foot. So let's take a look at pounds per dozen. So this is another item that's not going to be lot controlled. So we've got this dozen set up as a stocking and sales unit. And then if we go to the prices, since we set up pounds both ways, we can actually select $5 per pound, specify that as a price, and then we can go to the Specs tab. I've already got 10 pounds per dozen, and then we check that as variable again so we can change that on the sales order itself. So let's go ahead and hit save. And then I've got one more item just so we can show what catch weights looks like with lot numbers. So we've got this lot numbered item that's using actual cost, and it's stocked and sold in cases. And then we want to price it by pound. So let's say if we've got cheese as an item and we order cases of cheese. Well, when we sell that cheese, we want to actually price it based on the weight of the cheese in that case. So we have an average weight of, let's say, 10 pounds per case. But whenever we actually weigh it, it could fluctuate between 9 to 12 pounds depending on the humidity, the environment of the warehouse, etc. So to show you how this works on a sales order, let's go ahead and create a new order, and we'll add all 3 of these items so you can see how this is going to flow. And we'll do atoms. We don't want to select the contract for atoms. We're just going to deal with these catch weight items. So we're going to go ahead and add the square foot per ream, the case using lot control, and also pounds per dozen. So as you can see here, we've got this catch length square foot per ream. We've ordered 1 ream, and it says 1, and the unit measure is ream. And then over here on the right hand side, we've got a price of $5 per square foot. And then we've also got this length and price quantity. Now this is what you're going to change. So let's say, as you can see, it's $5 times 24 is $120. So we've got, let's say maybe instead of this one being 24, it's actually going to be 36 for some reason. And when you tab out of that box, it actually changes the amount to 180. So you can see that it's pricing based on the length that you've actually entered. Now, if we go to the catch weight with cases using lot control, we're not actually going to be changing the weight here on this weight field. We're actually going to be specifying the actual weight on the lot number itself. So when we select this lot number tab, we select one of the lots, and you can see a quantity of 1 with a unit of case, and then we actually have this actual weight field available now. So instead of it being 10, it's going to be 15. For some reason, this case weighs a lot more than the average. So when we close it, the price has changed from 100, because that was the average that we had set at 10. It's now 150. And then it works the same for weight-based pricing. We've got this 1 dozen has been ordered, but we price $5 per pound for these dozen. And we've got this weight field. So let's say it's 20. It's not 10 right now. We've got 20 pounds per this dozen. For some reason, this dozen is just really heavy. Or we can even change it to 5. As you can see, as you change this weight, the actual amount changes for this sales order. And it'll recalculate every time you change it. Alright, so that is the basis of pricing in ACCTivate. As you saw earlier, we had the customer contract price is first, then the customer specific price, then we have the product specific price, then the price category, then list price. And that's how it's going to flow through the whole system. So let's take a look at some of the questions and see if we can answer those during this demo. The last question that was actually submitted, is there a way to apply price category for an entire product type or product class, or can it only be done at the product level? It's going to be done at the product level, but you can create an import. So let's say you export your products and you show a column for the product ID and the column for the product type or product class, or both if you wanted to use the combination. You'll add another column to that spreadsheet that you've exported, and you'll actually add the specific price category that you want to assign to each of those products. So then from that spreadsheet, you would run a product update import to assign that price category. Price category, it would be on the product update import. So you would map the product ID and that price category you specified on the spreadsheet. The product pricing based on contract parameters goes back to what we did at the very beginning of the demo. So let's take a look at that customer that we set up. So we've got a contract for promotion, and then you select that contract ID on the window and you give it a product ID to assign to it. Now again, you can use this for service or warranty. So let's say if you've got a warranty contract with a customer and all of your labor is going to be free but your materials are going to be charged, you would actually set up a customer contract for warranty, and then on the prices tab you would select that warranty contract and add any of the labor items that you would use and give it a price of 0, so that way that customer won't be charged for labor, they'll only be charged for materials. And then we had a question about the multi-currency. So if you have an item that is going to be sold to your other currency customers, you set this euro price to $5, and that is 5 euros, not 5 American dollars. Because when you have a customer that uses euros, that is actually what's going to be used for your receivables. The euro is converted based on the market rates that you have in QuickBooks. So what you'll do is you'll update the exchange rate for euro or whatever currency is available. And then when you run a sync, that exchange rate will update and activate. And that is the exchange rate that's going to be used in QuickBooks, which QuickBooks will have an accounts receivable euro account. And that customer will also pay in euros. But the income that you're going to be clocking is going to be in dollars. We've got a question about, can you import different price codes when importing new products? We don't have an import to create new price codes. You'll have to actually create the price code before you run an import, and then you'll use the product price import to add that price code and specific pricing structure on the items. And that's under File, Import Data, and then Product Prices. Just create new mapping, you go to the columns, and you'll map the product ID, price code, and then all the other pricing information that you'd need to update the product with. Do the terms reset when a customer contract expires? When the contract expires, you would create a new order. Let's say the contract expired 11/30, so when you create a new order on 12/1, yes, the customer terms will revert back to the default set on the credit tab of the customer record, which for Adams would be net 30. Can you set a promotional discount to apply to all products during a given show or period? There's not really a way to apply it to every single item in one click. You're going to have to set it up for each either price category, or you'll set up the customer contracts. You can import those product-specific prices to have an effective and expiration date through that product prices import. But no, there's not a way to just give all of your items a 10% discount for a month. It's all got to be based on the price code specified either on the product or customer record. Can you show customer-specific discount on total invoice and per line item? Yes, you can through reporting. Now, if you have this customer-specific price of $350, it's not going to show what the discount is on the sales order. The only time it's going to show what the discount is on the sales order is if, let's say, you've created a new one for Adams, and you can see this discount down at the bottom is 10%. So whenever you create that invoice, it's going to show. Here, we'll go ahead and do an item that we haven't been dealing with. And just for demo purposes, we'll add this 5% line discount. So if you add a line discount on the sales order window itself, that will print based on the way your order report is set up. So if we click Save, Print Order, it's actually going to show the discount of 5% with a total amount of $475. It'll show the discount of 48 cents, which is 10% off of the whole invoice. And then since we had a specific line discount, you can also see the line discount here. Now, during our implementation phase, a lot of our customers elect to remove that discount off of the line. So be sure that if you're not seeing it, that you understand that you probably have a customized order or invoice that doesn't show that. The use of a PO number for these customer contracts is really just for the customer's reference. So typically whenever you have a contract, like the customer will actually give you a specific PO that's going to be used during that contract period. So that's going to be warranties, services, etc. When you add that customer PO, it's going to actually print on the sales order. So if we hit promotion, you can see the PO is now there. We'll add A121 again, save, and when we print the order, now we have a customer purchase order listed on the order report. So it's really just for the customer reference, because a lot of times some customers will only pay if they have an approved PO available for that purchase. All right, well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. So, as always, check out our help site for further information on pricing or for any other questions you may have. You can choose from the drop downs on the header of the page or search for specific keywords. So, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation on pricing options and have a great day.